We are so excited about our spiritual engagement hour, and we're excited that our very first gift for the spiritual engagement hour is the moderator of the Universal Fellowship of Metropolitan Community Churches, a global denomination. You're going to hear more about that. So we have our moderator today, Reverend Elder Cecilia Eggleston. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I'm very excited.
Absolutely. We're thrilled that you're able to join in your MCCDC family today. And so if you could just please tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in MCC.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I've been in MCC most of my adult life. I came into MCC in my mid-20s. I picked up a leaflet when I was having a holiday at a seaside town in England where I live, and I was amazed. I was brought up Catholic, and to find a church that recognized that I could have a ministry as a woman and would lovingly embrace me as a lesbian was phenomenal. So MCC has been my life, and I'm very grateful for that. I serve as the moderator of Metropolitan Community Churches, which means that I'm the global leader. I act as the chief executive officer for the staff and the spokesperson for the denomination. And it's such an honor and a joy to serve your congregation and our congregations around the world. And my specific role, I suppose, is in the overview of the denomination, making sure that we're doing what is going to best serve our congregations, making sure that we have the resources to do that, having a vision for the future of the denomination, and representing MCC when we need to speak out on global justice issues. So it's an elected position. So I was elected to serve for 6 years, and I've done 4.5 years of those now. I live in the southwest of England, about 150 miles from London. And I'm very blessed to be able to travel to different parts of the world and meet MCCers in their local congregations. It's been wonderful to worship with you in MCCDC, and I hope to do that again some point soon.
Oh, thank you very much. And you also are the lead for the Council of Elders as well.
Yeah, that's right. If you imagine sort of all the different functions of an organization, we have the like the finance and the policy development, human resources aspect, and that's managed by the governing board, and I chair the governing board. They're all volunteers, they're elected volunteers. And then we also have the Council of Elders, who are the spiritual and pastoral leaders of the denomination. And I moderate the council as well. So those are two wonderful teams of volunteers that I work with. And then there's the MCC staff, who are people who are on the ground working to serve our congregations and our church leaders. And it's a huge honor to serve with those three leadership bodies and amazing people who serve around the world. We're very blessed in MCC.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Well, you have some amazing responsibilities, and you do a lot of amazing work, and it takes courage. And our theme is courageous faith. How do you stay courageous as a leader and as basically the corporate leader of a denomination and a pastor? I mean, you wear so many hats. How do you wear all these hats courageously?
Yeah, courage is an interesting thing, isn't it? Because we need courage, I think, when we're afraid. So I'm very comfortable being a public speaker. So I don't feel like I need to be courageous to be a public speaker, whereas for some folks, standing in front of a crowd is terrifying. Mm-hmm. But then there are other things where, I need courage, to speak out on a justice issue or to be very public about something. And, I get my inspiration from other people. I don't know whether anybody in MCCDC has come across this amazing book. Ooh, that one, God of My Understanding. Aha, and there are wonderful stories in this. If you haven't read this book, read it. It's fabulous. So in the book, there is a story from somebody's childhood, and she talks about, you know, they're a large family. There's just the mum looking after all of these children, and they're struggling. You know, poverty was part of their life, and this mother on this one day, the person who's describing the story, you know, her stomach is growling. She's so hungry, and there's no food in the house, and yet the mum gets them all to kneel in a circle and pray. And the mother talks about how grateful she is for all the things that they do have, that her children are healthy, that they have education, that they have a roof over their mouth. And she talks about how the fact that food is on its way, and she's confident in the generosity of those around her. And I love that story because that mother is stepping out in faith. That mother is showing great courage. Now, inside, she might have been terrified about what was going to happen to her family, you know, on a regular basis. But to show her children how to pray and how to trust in God. And sure enough, you know, after they'd finished praying, the family goes, and the author describes standing outside, and two relatives are coming up the road with cabbages and flowers so that they can have a meal, you know. And there's a well-known Irish theologian called Podrick O'Tuama, who's a great friend to MCC. And I picked up a book of daily prayer at the Coromila Retreat Centre in Northern Ireland that he used to be the director of, which is another fantastic book. And if you like skinny books, it's very skinny. But in here, there is a book about a prayer about courage. And I say that prayer every day because to be part of MCC means that you are courageous. Any of you that have walked into MCC for the first time, that took courage to try something different, to step into the unknown, to risk leaving things behind that have been important to you in the past, but to start and do something new. So anyone in MCC has courage, and I'm astounded when I hear what our local churches are doing around the world, because local pastors like you two don't think I'm being courageous today or we're doing something life-changing today. You follow what's in your heart and you listen to that still small voice in your mind's ear, as our founder, Reverend Troy D. Perry, would say. Yeah. And you do what you think is right. And sometimes it's scary. I'm sure it's very scary sometimes ministering in the capital city. But at the same time, you know, you're doing what you feel called to do and changing lives as a consequence. So thank you for everything that you do. And thank you for the book, which is ace.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If in a moment, if you could read that prayer that you were talking about, that prayer.
I'd love to. Perhaps we could conclude with that.
That's what I was thinking. That'd make a great conclusion.
Yeah.
And that book was by Jackie Lois, one of our own congregants.
Yes, Jackie Lois. Yeah, who sent me the book, and I had a good chat with her about it. So thank you, Jackie. And the person whose story it is, I did check it out. So this chapter, the contributors were Clara M. Carter and Cynthia Powell. So thank you for those stories and all the stories in here. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Talked about how you stay courageous, and you talked about how you see how there's this courage happening in every MCC.
Yeah.
But what are some of the places where you're seeing courage in MCC denominationally or local churches that you're excited about, that you would love to tell us about? Where do you see MCCs around the world being courageous and making a difference?
Well, one place where the churches are working together is in Florida, USA. As you know, if you live in the United States, the political climate in Florida has become incredibly hostile to the LGBTQIA+ community. And in the schools, they're actually rewriting African American history, and teachers are being compelled to teach things that are just not true. And that's a very hard climate to live in and to minister in. And yet our churches there, first of all, have gathered together to go on rallies, to go to the state capitol and petition politicians. They've gone to church, to school boards to support teachers and school leads that are being challenged because what's going on in schools. And the churches in MCC, as you know, gather together in groups called networks, and the Florida network met in MCC Tampa's building last year. And it's, you know, it's right by a road. It's not an incredibly busy road, but it's very out there. It's very public. And their sign says, "We do say gay."
Yes.
And so anybody driving past that church absolutely knows what kind of church that is. And, you know, I thought that was incredibly courageous, because that's very clear and gives people something to think about as they drive by. And I thought that was wonderful. And as Reverend Kathy mentioned earlier about the Council of Elders, one of our new elders is Reverend Elder Noktula Daladla, who's based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And she works for an organization called the Global Interfaith Network. And her specific role is to get folk from the LGBTQIA community and people from churches to talk and learn together about human sexuality. And you can imagine what a risk that is for the LGBTQIA people who are willing to be involved in that, but also what a risk for the church folk. You know, if all your life you've been taught something about human sexuality and now you're questioning it, and what's more, you're wanting your congregation to discuss that. And we know places can be very, very violent, and South Africa can be a very violent, deadly place for our community, even though equal marriage is in there in the law. But Reverend Elder Noktula does this, and she gathers these folk together and she trains them, and then they go a bit like the disciples, you know, in pairs. Someone from the LGBTQIA community and someone from a church background, and they go together to congregations to help congregations talk about spirituality and sexuality. And I just think that's extraordinary. And she travels all over Southern Africa to do this. So all these pockets of places where it's still dangerous to be a rainbow person, but there are these discussions happening. And we know, sadly, that religion is at the base of a lot of hate that our community experiences. And so to be able to talk with other Christians and help them to come to a fresh perspective, I think is amazing. So those are two stories, but I know many others. So it's a wonderful, wonderful denomination that we're part of.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering if, you know, if you might be able to share some of the hopes and aspirations that you have for MCC, particularly those inspired by Reverend Elder Troy Perry and the lay leaders that you've come across, the laity and the ministers who are all make up our global MCC.
Yeah, you know, Troy hoped that MCC would not be needed, that, you know, churches would become more inclusive and open their doors to our community. And in some places that is happening, and we should be grateful for that. And it's also true that in many places around the world, it's getting even harder, and rights that we have fought for are being rolled back. So there are so many places where MCC is needed. And we think of the way that church is changing and has changed. If you know Reverend Troy, you know that he's so interested in new technology. He's always been an early adopter. And, you know, talking to him now, he loves seeing church online, you know, and he will worship with several congregations around the world on a Sunday because you can worship online. And so that's one of the areas that our colleagues on staff are really looking at. How can we help churches to really make the most of technology and to help people become part of the community? Because I know you have a great online ministry at MCCDC, and you had that before the pandemic. And so, you know, how do we make sure that those of us that are participating in worship online actually feel part of the community, and we can engage in activities during the week as well? It's not just like watching a TV program. It's like we are part of a community, we belong, and there are things that we can take part in all week. And just been hearing about the prayer call and people being able to gather together online in MCCDC to pray together. That's fantastic. This is part of the future of what it means to be church. And we keep changing. You know, we used to have bulletins on paper, and then we had, some of us will remember the overhead projector, and now we use PowerPoint, and now we use, you know, Zoom. So all the time we're changing. And it's how we adapt to needs as well. You know, so many of our churches offer food pantries. Either they give away food parcels, or they serve hot food, all sorts of things. And so many of our lay people are involved in that. You know, I go to churches, and there are people busy in the kitchen preparing the food and doing the washing up and serving. It's just a wonderful thing that people are able to offer, because on a basic level, everybody needs food. And MCC Richmond, they discovered that people didn't really know much about the church. And when the pandemic happened, and they put their food pantry out on the pavement, on the sidewalk, as you'd say in the US, then people realized that a church was there, and a church that was doing good things. And so people were attracted to that congregation because of the wonderful work that team was doing. And, you know, that's repeated all over the world. And it's, you know, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
We don't need to do,
Awesome.
yeah, you know, I think Mother Teresa said, we don't need to do huge things. We just need to do small things with great love.
Wow.
And I think, you know, our MCC congregations are fantastic at doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You've really whetted our appetite for more, and you've just been an amazing, you know, first gift.
Thank you.
Now
I'm very,
that,
very honored. And, you know, you're doing such great things in MCCDC. You know, Reverend Kathy shared some of the TikTok videos that you've done, you know, and the work that you're doing in the city. And, you know, Reverend Dwayne, I know that you've been the chaplain to the mayor, you know, at some point past, and all of these things make a difference, you know, and it's so important that another Christian voice, another voice of faith is heard amidst all the clamor. So thank you for all that you're doing.
thank you. We would love to have you back again.
Oh yeah, do. I'm very, you know,
yeah.
always
Technology
glad to
makes
do
it.
this.
Yeah. And technology makes it possible. So we're
That's
great.
right. Yes.
Yeah.
Here I'm sitting in England, watching the clouds go by, and there you are in Washington. It's amazing. Yeah.
So
I'm trying to find a prayer now. Here it is. I've got it.
I knew you had it handy. Thank you.
I've got it handy. Now, just to explain, some of you will know the history of Northern Ireland and how there was great violence there for many years, euphemistically called the Troubles.
Yeah.
And there were military people on both sides representing communities, Protestant communities and Catholic communities. And there was need of reconciliation, and the Corrymeela Centre became that space. And the chapel there is circular. So you sit in a circle talking, and it's called the Cree. It's a Gaelic word, which means heart. And so this prayer references the Cree. Courage comes from the heart, and we are always welcomed by God. the Cree of all being. We bear witness to our faith, knowing that we are called to live lives of courage, love, and reconciliation in the ordinary and extraordinary moments of each day. We bear witness too to our failures and to our complicity in the fractures of this world. May we be courageous today. May we learn today. May we love today. Amen. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this.
Thank you.
And I hope our conversation is a blessing to many others.
It's a blessing. It has been a blessing. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.